Have you ever considered that the most delicious and maybe the most effective way to really immerse yourself in a new language? Might not involve a textbook at all, but, well, a spatula.
Yeah.
Forget the grammar drills for a second. Just picture yourself maybe in a kitchen smelling the spices and actually, stirring up some genuine English fluency.
Well, it's definitely more than just a nice idea. It's actually a pretty powerful learning strategy.
Right.
Learning by doing, especially when that doing involves making something real, something tasty. It just engages you on so many more levels than, just memorizing lists. Uses more senses, deeper brain pathways.
Absolutely. And that's really the heart of what we're digging into today. We're looking at an intermediate English learning episode. It's called Cooking Adventures, a recipe for English fluency.
Good title.
Yeah. And our mission really is to kind of break down how it's structured, what teaching tricks they use,
Yeah.
basically how they turn cooking a meal, something pretty mundane, into this really potent language lesson. We want to figure out what makes it work so well, what insights it gives us about learning practical skills, conversational skills through just everyday stuff. Why does this method feel so, sticky? Memorable.
Yeah, because it's not just about learning words in isolation, is it? It's about learning in context, situated learning. So, yeah, let's peel back the layers, see what makes this kind of immersive, task-based approach so effective. Not just for language, really, but maybe for learning almost anything.
Okay, let's step into this kitchen classroom then.
Yeah.
The setup itself is, well, it's brilliant because it's so simple and real.
Right.
Picture this. You're right there in Alex's kitchen. Alex is, let's say, a beginner cook trying out a new recipe.
Okay. A bit nervous, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
And guiding Alex is Sarah, who knows her way around the kitchen a bit better. It's not some sterile language lab, It's a real kitchen.
Yeah.
The stakes are pretty low.
Yeah.
Maybe you burn an onion, right? But the engagement factor, that's super high.
And that authenticity, that context, that's where the learning magic really happens. There's a lot of research in embodied cognition.
Okay.
It basically suggests that when you physically do something like chopping, while you hear and maybe say the word chop, you create much stronger memory connections, multisensory ones.
Ah, makes sense.
It's not just an abstract word anymore. It's tied to the feel of the knife, the sound, the smell. All those things become cues for the language. So this natural setup, it grounds the language immediately, makes it relevant, usable, which really helps you remember and actually understand it.
That makes so much sense. And it's interesting because, okay, you have Alex and Sarah talking, cooking, but the original Cooking Adventures thing, it also has like a narrator or a host figure, right?
Yes, exactly.
What's that person doing? Are they just explaining the recipe? Or is there more to it for the language learning?
Oh, much more. That narrator is crucial for what we call scaffolding the learner.
Scaffolding, like on a building.
Kind of, yeah. It's like temporary support. They help the learner reach a bit higher than they could on their own. Think of a coach guiding an athlete.
Okay.
So this narrator isn't just background chatter. They explicitly point out useful phrases, maybe explain tricky pronunciations, highlight those sequencing tips first, then next, things you might miss if you're just focused on not burning the food.
Right. Too busy cooking.
Exactly. It's like having this invisible guide whispering helpful language stuff in your ear. It bridges that gap between just watching and actually getting the language points. Without that guidance, a lot of learning moments could just, disappear.
Gotcha. So we have this great real-world kitchen classroom setup. Now, what about the actual language? What are the linguistic ingredients, if you will, that Cooking Adventures throws into the pot first?
Well, they start smart.
Right.
Right at the foundation. High frequency, really useful action verbs, the core stuff you do in cooking, like chop, slice, boil, fry, bake, stir, mix, add, serve. The absolute essentials.
Yeah, you can't really cook without those.
Exactly. And they're not just cooking words, are they? You use variations of these in lots of situations. Mastering these gives learners these useful chunks they can then combine with other words. It really speeds up their ability to talk about processes, not just in the kitchen.
Okay, those verbs are definitely key. What about the nouns? The things you use, the tools, the ingredients?
Yep, they cover those too. Strategically. It's not an overwhelming list. You learn words like ingredients, obviously, chopping board, saucepan, oven, spatula.
The basics again.
The absolute must-haves. Things you'd see and use every single time you cook. So the learning is practical, it reinforces the context, and what's clever is how they build on it.
How so?
They don't just stop there. Once you've got the basics, they might introduce slightly more specific verbs like simmer or drain. It shows a progression. It's not just dumping vocabulary. It's a structured journey, linguistically, that mirrors the cooking process itself, adding complexity gradually so you don't get swamped, building a vocabulary that actually grows with you.
Now, this next bit, I find this really interesting. The grammar focus. Specifically, imperative verbs. Commands, do this, do that. How does the kitchen setting make teaching that particular grammar point so effective?
This is where the setting is just perfect, isn't it? Imperatives, chop the onions, add the spices, bake for 20 minutes. They're absolutely everywhere in a recipe, in cooking
So
instructions.
those all commands.
Right. The kitchen is naturally a place of instruction, of action. So focusing on imperatives directly teaches a core language function, giving and following directions. And learning it there in that low-stakes, high-engagement kitchen, you're not just memorizing rules.
They're actually doing it.
You're doing it. It's what linguists sometimes call comprehensible output. You're pushed to use the language meaningfully. That really solidifies understanding and your ability to speak, way more than just listening passively. And imperatives are so clear, so direct. The context makes learning them feel almost natural because you need them right then and there.
Yeah, that really clicks, and it makes you think, gosh, how many other real-world situations are just sitting there, perfect for learning, that we overlook? Now, thinking beyond single words or commands, describing a whole recipe, that's basically telling a story, right, in a very specific order.
Oh, absolutely.
My kitchen definitely turns into chaos if I don't follow the steps properly.
So how does Cooking Adventures handle teaching that sequence, those connecting words?
Well, your potential kitchen chaos perfectly illustrates why those connectors are so vital.
Huh. Yeah.
Seriously, though, whether you're explaining how to cook or how you built something or even just telling someone about your day, you need to order the steps logically.
Yeah.
It's fundamental for clear communication. These aren't just like little transition words. They're crucial signposts in your speech or writing.
Okay.
For an intermediate learner, getting these down, that's a huge step towards making longer, more coherent sense. A lot of confusion when listening to learners isn't bad vocabulary. It's the lack of these logical links.
So which specific connectors do they focus on in the episode? They hit the key ones first, then next, after that, and finally, the real workhorses of sequencing.
For the classics.
Exactly. You can't just randomly throw ingredients in a bowl and expect a cake, right?
Definitely not.
And you can't just throw words together randomly and expect people to understand your process. So by modeling these words within the recipe context, Cooking Adventures shows learners how to describe any process naturally. It builds confidence in explaining steps. It's not just about words, it's about the structure, the tools for logical communication. These connectors help you organize your thoughts, making your English sound much clearer, much more fluent.
Okay, so it's clear they build a solid foundation for the technical side of cooking talk.
Right.
But language isn't just instructions, is it? It's interaction, people talking to each other.
Crucial point.
How does this deep dive show Cooking Adventures moving beyond just the recipe steps and bringing in that social element, the interaction?
Yeah, and that's a really smart move because it addresses something often missed in, let's say, more traditional language classes. You learn words, you learn grammar, but then using it appropriately in real situations, that can be tricky. The pragmatics of it all.
Right. How to actually use it politely.
Precisely. So Cooking Adventures weaves in polite requests right there in the kitchen. Things like, could you pass me the salt? Or maybe, can you stir this while I chop the vegetables?
Oh, okay. Natural things you'd actually say.
Exactly. This pushes learners beyond just knowing words to actually using them effectively, politely in a real scenario. It helps them become not just language users, but actual communicators. It's about building that communicative competence, which is way more than just getting the grammar right. It prepares them for real social moments.
And you mentioned earlier, sometimes kitchen words themselves can be tricky to say. Pronunciation pitfalls.
Oh, definitely.
Does Cooking Adventures tackle that? Because that can be a real confidence killer for learners, right?
Absolutely. It's a huge point. Bad pronunciation or fear of it can really hold people back. English cooking terms, like lots of specialized words, can have weird spellings, silent letters, odd stress.
Like dough or through.
Exactly. Or even subtle things like stir versus saute. So Cooking Adventures directly addresses this. They might include specific pronunciation tips for those tricky words.
How? Like drills.
Could be repetition, maybe breaking the word down, pointing out the stress, sometimes comparing similar sound minimal pairs. By tackling it right there, when the word is relevant, they help learners not just know the word, but say it clearly, confidently. It helps remove a big barrier to just jumping into a conversation.
Okay, so bringing all these pieces together then.
Yeah.
The verbs, the tools, the imperatives, the sequencing, the politeness, the pronunciation. What's the big goal here? If someone engages with cooking adventures, what are they meant to be able to do better afterwards?
Well, the main goal is super practical. It's about empowering these intermediate learners to feel, more confident talking about cooking, yes, but also more generally following and giving instructions and describing any kind of process clearly in English.
Goes functional.
Highly functional. It's not just about knowing more words. It's about having language skills you can actually use immediately. It's giving them the tools to do things with English. That's what makes language learning feel worthwhile, right? Sustainable, useful day to day. They gain real communicative autonomy in a context they understand.
And to really hammer that home, to make sure it sticks, the original episode apparently ends with this mini speaking challenge.
Yeah, the application part.
Right. It asks listeners to describe their own favorite recipe step by step, using all the new language they just learned.
Yeah.
Why is that active step, that making it your own part, so important?
Oh, that challenge is gold.
Oh,
It's absolutely key for moving the knowledge from just understanding it passively to being able to actively produce it. It forces you to recall the words, the structures, and actually build something with them yourself. It gives you this immediate low-pressure chance to apply everything in a way that's creative and personal, talking about your favorite food.
Connects it to your life.
Totally. That active recall, that personalization, it really cements the learning, makes the language feel like yours. It turns theory into practice, builds confidence, and it nudges you into that sweet spot of learning, applying what you just learned to something slightly challenging but doable. It's the real test. Can you actually use this stuff?
So, wrapping this up then.
Yeah.
What Cooking Adventures really shows us is just an incredibly practical, engaging, and, well, effective way to learn a language.
Yeah, it really does.
It takes this everyday thing, cooking, and turns it into this structured, fun, and genuinely powerful learning experience.
Yeah.
It's not just about English either. It feels like a model for making learning just a natural part of living your life.
Precisely. It really highlights the power of learning in context. When the knowledge is wrapped up in a real-world multisensory activity, it just becomes so much more relevant, easier to remember, and ultimately more useful. It's like immersion learning, but you can do it right in your own kitchen. A good reminder that the best classrooms are often just life itself.
And that perfectly sets up our final thought for you today. After digging into Cooking Adventures, maybe take a moment and consider, what other seemingly ordinary everyday activities could you potentially transform into powerful learning opportunities?
Good question.
Not just for language, remember, but for anything you want to get better at, any skill, any subject. How could you maybe turn your next routine task, I don't know, organizing your desk, planning a trip, fixing something small, even just explaining a game into your own little personal deep dive for knowledge?
Yeah, think about it. What are the parts, the tools, the steps involved, the order? Who might you talk to about it? There's probably a whole world of learning hiding in plain sight right there in your daily routine.
Yeah.
Just waiting to be stirred up.
Like a chef facing a new recipe, maybe you can make your own learning a pretty delicious and enriching experience, one small intentional step at a time.